I'm M.V. Moran. We are here in the Adjunct Gallery in the EMU at the University of Oregon. And this exhibition, The Three Ladies, is now on display. The Three Ladies consists of 3 large panels plus 6 other pieces that are duplicates of this work. I was playing with the idea of duplicity in art. The Three Ladies was based on a triptych for the Moran Art Gallery and was a site-specific work. Right here we have Discouraged. She's 36 by 80, mixed media. This work is based on my body. I am both the model and the muse for this work. I also took in the idea of the muse, and I also took in the idea of the 3 graces for this work. And not only did I take in the concept of art history and the ties that relate to the past, but I also looked at the historic site of Maud Kearns. Maud Kearns was once a Protestant church that closed down in the 1950s. The congregation had dissipated. I have no idea what happened to them, and that really bothered me. So I went to my local library. I researched as much as I could, and there isn't much information on the building itself. And this bothered me. This bothered me that people could just disappear. A congregation of worshipers, we have no idea what happened to them. The building was luckily sold to Maud Kearns, and now it's an art center, which is fantastic. So I wanted to bring in the idea of the icon. And most folks think that the icon is about Catholicism. That can be true, but there was a lot of Protestants who loved the idea of a visual aid, if you will, into their spiritual beliefs. As you know, probably, most folks were illiterate until the 19th to 20th century. Illiteracy is still a problem in parts of the world. So the icon helped to represent what could be, what would be, what should be. So for this, I have a female form here. She's in a 1950s swimming suit to reflect the idea that the congregation disappeared in the 50s. She's standing as if a model, a modern model. She has the halo of an icon, but this halo isn't perfect. She's an imperfect icon, if you will. She's adhered to the panel, and her body is posed in a way that is a little bit unbalanced, if you will. The background is vague with circles, and then the whitewashed tomb as well. So I played with a lot of different ideas for Discouraged. Discouraged looks out at the viewer, she engages the viewer, but she may not actually recognize or appreciate the viewer. Her lips are tight, her eyes are set forward, and she is discouraged with so much of society. We'll move to the next piece in just a moment. This piece here is Disheartened. She is looking towards Discouraged. Her backside is to the viewer, which is reminiscent of the 3 graces when they're dancing in various pieces in Western art history. Again, I used the 1950s swimsuit. Her hands are placed in defiance. Disheartened, halo, is larger and smaller. She's less likely to turn her head and look at the viewer. She's looking at Discouraged. The circles represent sin, despondency, and apprehension. She has a lot to think about in her whitewashed tomb. And the circles are vague and represent a non-location, if you will. Again, this is based on the icon, but also she's turning her back on society. She can't even look at the viewer. She chooses not to. We're going to go to the next piece in just a moment. This is dispirited. She is also looking at discouraged. She's also ignoring the viewer. Dispirited is angry with society. Her lips are pinched, her brows are more so furrowed, and she is the most rigid and sturdy of the three pieces. Her frustration is grounded in fact. She's also aware that she's adhered to the panel and she has nowhere to go. Her entire torso is adhered, her hands are stuck to her side, and she has more gray in this piece because of the frustration and anger in her. So with this one, I wanted to portray less icon and more frustrated individual. And I think it was successful by the straight lines in her neck, by her set jaw, by the lips. She's frozen in time in anger. She's still an icon, she's still vertical, she goes along with the triptych, but she does have an independent spirit about her. And I'm really pleased with how the circles in her body and around her make a lovely composition. This piece here is actually a giant sketch. Typically when I work in the studio, I create small drawings and large drawings of the actual work. It helps me process. It also helps me decide compositionally what's working. This one here is based on Dispirited. And I decided after this piece that I would use less graphite. I would use more paint. So I love the fact that I started out and she's much more timid than the final Dispirited. And I realized for one thing, her hands were too small, there were too many circles, so this really let me process how to move forward. I'm a process artist, I'm a maker, and this is an important part of my process is to create mini pieces for the final. This is the preliminary sketch for Disheartened. Again, I was playing around with the idea of the icon showing the backside. I wanted it to be offensive, if you will, to some folks. She will not look at you, she has her back turned to you. And this one, I decided that I loved the white wash of the piece. So this preliminary drawing helped me figure out exactly the materials I wanted to use. And again, I loved the fact that I had circles and I played with them and I figured out exactly what I wanted to do. I love making. I love creating big work. So sometimes this helps me with proportions, composition, and managing materials. This is the sketch for Discouraged. Again, I typically always create small pieces and large pieces for a final painting or drawing, large scale. I go actual size, I work with the medium that I'm going to choose, and then later revise. For Discouraged, she's a little too sad in this piece. I wanted her a little bit more despondent, and I didn't want her gaze to be associated with the viewer. I wanted it to be more abstract and more icon. So I did make many changes. I do love the fact that in this piece, Discouraged is more of an angel. I thought that was a lovely idea. It did not work in the final piece, and that's okay. Thank you so much for being here with me. I want to say a big, big thank you to everyone at Adele McMillan Gallery. They've been fantastic. The show was beautiful. I hope you can come and see it. If not, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see more of my work, feel free to go to mvmoran.com, and I'm also on all the social sites. So feel free to come and see me. Contact me if you have any questions. Thank you very much.